Welcome to another edition of One Take Wine. Glad you could join me. Today I've got 4 wines. Maybe one of them is just a little bit more something that we opened on the side to make sure that we had something to drink with food type of thing, but it's worth talking about because I'm somewhat impressed with it. The others I think are more in line with how I normally flow, except for one in particular, which I'm quite excited to talk about. What are we waiting for? Oh, let's get started with white. What do we got in the glass? The color. Maybe it looks a little darker than it is actually in the glass. I mean, when I look at it in this light, it's starting to add depth color-wise, but buttery with tinges of green. Still very, very youthful. And I can say this, when I opened this bottle yesterday, I was quite surprised to find it under a DM cork. I suspect this was a response to a lot of the white wines, people opening them up and finding 6 of 12 or even more, maybe the whole case, oxidized, something that, especially in the early noughts, people would notice very much from the wines that were made throughout the 90s, I would say, mid to late 90s. And then the other part, of course, is the cork taint issue, which is always a problem. And that's not the same as the oxidation issue, which was more of a producer type of problem. That was a big thing. There's a website, actually. And it's a great website because it was a lot of users who would note the oxidized ones and the non-oxidized ones. And very clearly, you could see patterns from producers emerging. So you can see which producers were probably overusing bâtonnage as a technique. Maybe that's not what it was, but it surely had something to do with the technique. And if I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat, I'm going to say that in turn was a response to the wines that were coming out of California, which had that kind of richer depth to them and also quite heavy alcohol-wise. And I think that they got a little bit threatened by that and tried to approximate it. Shouldn't be trying to follow anybody when you're coming from the great terroirs of Bourgogne. As far as I'm concerned, what do we have in this glass? Yeah, this is all tutti frutti and the cotton candy thing. And confirmed on the palate as well. It's very sweet. Has a peach and pear combination with that very high toned vanilla effect. Medium weight. I think that's kind of what's holding this wine back a little bit more. It could probably use a bit more fat, a little bit more weight. And at the same time, it's drinking very young. Despite its age, it's not drinking very advanced. It may not be all completely in place just yet. This has been open overnight, so it's had plenty of air. It's had plenty of time to pull itself together. I still like the sweetness very much. I like the clarity. And then there's a little bit more of a savory kind of note to it as well, a cheese fondue type of thing kind of going on. Some mineral and some mushroom, definitely some champignon de Paris, which is kind of nice. I like it very, very much. I could drink a lot of these. I think they're incredible value. What I don't think they're not a way to short your way past a Grand Cru, but boy oh boy do they represent great value. And this is an auction bottle. It's a 2008 Clos Landry. Can't stand the labels from these days on Bouchard's wines. The labels today are much, much more elegant. They're better, for sure. These feel like a bad tablecloth. I don't know. Wrong font, wrong color. It's almost brownish. It's not super great. But the wine, the contents, you can't argue with. Still a very young drinking 2008 Clos Landry. The 2005 is a little bit more advanced. I remember when I opened it, the color it could have even been younger looking than this bottle, but I can't remember if it was that DM cork. I'll check on the next one. In any case, that's another reason to buy these at auction. First of all, the price is good. Second of all, because of the use of the DM corks, it's going to progress fairly naturally and slowly, I would say. So you could still have them in your cellar for a little while. What can I say about a €50 bottle of wine that is from 2008, one of the great vintages for white wine that I know of in Burgundy. And they're available. They're kind of sitting around. I mean, you just gotta pluck them. Shall we move on to the next one? What do we got in the glass? Look at the color here. Now you can see this is pale, see-through. And there's only a few places it could be. There's a little bit of the skunk from the cellar, but also this muskiness. almost cinnamon, but not a sharp cinnamon, a very kind of dulled and rounded cinnamon, a cinnamon that's been stewed in maybe a cherry sauce or a strawberry sauce. A little bubblegum or Band-Aid kind of going on there. A friend of mine used to call that smell Band-Aid, and I really like that as a descriptor. I think Band-Aid captures it perfectly. Lovely coolness to it. Some roasted meat and that strawberry thing. Good length, but it's a persistence-based length. It is one that sits on the tongue, sits on the palate, continues in waves to sort of give off its vibe, rather than a driving finish. There's no drive to this wine, and I would say that that's probably the knock against it. I mean, otherwise it's very good. If it had a bit more drive, it would be a great wine. Has a lovely spiciness to it. I mean, if it just had that little a notch up, I would really appreciate a lot more. And here's a wine that I bought for historical reasons. The history being that I drank the 2010 of this wine, of the Échezeaux from Marchand Tawse. I promised myself, whenever the Échezeaux come up, I'm going to buy them at auction because nobody seems to pursue them. You know, he makes, like this one, there was 298 bottles made. This is bottle number 74 of 298. I don't know if you can see it right there on the bottom left. I promised myself that because the 2010 was overwhelming. It was so good. It was like, really, wow. And I couldn't believe that I did. I got that wine at a price that was reasonable in today's Burgundy world. You just don't get them very often. Échezeaux, for some reason, have taken off. When I got the 2009, afterwards, it was nowhere near the quality of the 2010, which was disappointing. But 2011 was good, but still not 2010. 2012, now, the 2012, I bought the Chambertin Clos de Bez from Marchand Tawse. We're talking maximum 5 years ago. You could get them for under 200 euros a bottle, which in Burgundy world, there's nothing that's 200 in the Grand Cru area. So I bought them, I popped them, I poured them, I drank them, I loved them. They were fantastic, clean and big. The Clos de Bez was fantastic. This Échezeaux is not reaching those heights. And again, I say it's because of the drive. And I have this theory that the people who don't like Burgundies, you're out there. I know you're out there. Maybe you're even watching this. It's partially because of wines like this. Échezeaux has that kind of reputation for being a Premier Cru rather than a Grand Cru in a lot of instances. And I think that comes out of that lack of drive sometimes, because I often find that the wines that people complain about, if you're a Burgundy lover, you still find lots to love about it. you still quite enjoy it. You might not say it's the biggest Grand Cru. You might not say it's the most compelling wine in the planet, but you'll still enjoy it. You'll still be able to pick out the nuances and still sort of happily go about your business. Whereas someone who comes from a Bordeaux appreciation angle, or a Coroti or a Chateauneuf du Pape, you know, bigger, bolder wines, is going to taste it and kind of go, where's the, I don't see any energy in this. I'm not picking any signs of life in this. And I get it. I understand it. And I think this wine is one of those examples where you could very easily go down that path. I personally love it. I don't think I'd buy another bottle at the price I paid. They've gone up into Grand Cru prices, still under 200, but I'm glad I tried this. If you ever see the 2010 Échezeaux, which you probably won't. I mean, what did they make? 300 bottles, like I said, you know, not even 300 bottles a year in those days. Probably going to be a little hard to find. Should you come across one, fight for it. That, of the wines today, that's the wine I'm going to finish the day with, because it's the one, of course, as a Burgundy lover, that I appreciate the most. Well, let's just move right along, shall we? What do we got in the glass? Okay, we're not in Burgundy anymore. Probably not a huge surprise just based on the color. A hit of blueberry and rubber and asphalt and smoke. Yesterday when I opened this, today it's even more of the blueberry and a little bit of the asphalt's kind of gone down. has such a dense liquid mineral feel to it. It's a very, very elegant Syrah. I would have said that it more closely resembles, I think, Cornas. It's more in the style of Cornas because it has that severity, has that very mineral severity that they can pick up, you know, where you get this kind of dusty, minerally, not heaviness, it's very light, but it's a very dry and no nonsense type of approach. Cornas in general are not joyful wines. I understand that they have some qualities, and especially when they get older, very, very drying on the side and on the middle, without it being actually tannic, just more drying. I think it's a very compact wine. It's very dense. It's very elegant. It's quite light. And I think this is a wine that you want to put away for 5 to 10 years. And it's this, Damascene Stellenbosch Syrah 2022. I looked it up a little bit, and Damascene, you know, their tagline here on the back is less cult, more cultivation. And at the same time, then the rest of the text on the back is all just marketing. It's that transformative moment, a singular experience of shifting perspective. Damascene seeks out unique vineyards and at the same time, I think this is a genuinely good wine. There's no, excuse the French, there's no sluttiness about this. This is a tight package. This is a very tight package. This is not, it's not trying to charm me in any way whatsoever. I think you're gonna have to wait for this to unfurl because there's a you know, tightly coiled licorice sprung in here, just dying to pop out. I liked the idea of drinking some South African Syrah again. I liked the price point for what I hoped would be a quality expression of Syrah. It's about 40 US. I think it's less than that actually, which is pretty good. Looks like there's about 6,500 bottles produced of this particular one. Good wine, you know, maybe 92 points, and I'll bet you with the 5 years of age up to 94. That's what I'm gonna say. And then I wanted to very, very quickly just talk about this wine, a little glass of wine that I opened for my better half's pizza. Can't be wasting all the good stuff all the time on pizza. And this is very smoky. There's a lovely tobacco, delicious smoked pork type of profile to this. Wow, just something you want to eat, you know, snack with. I mean, pretty good presence too. Medium length. It is an alcohol-driven length. There's a little pinch at the end, which is always not my favorite. But then, you know, when we're getting into price points and things like that, then you realize, okay, well, forgivable, definitely forgivable. This is a wine that sort of says to me, why are you still drinking box wines? This is, I don't know, 12, 14 bucks or something in your market. It's by Raul Perez, who's a fantastic quality producer from Spain. He works with a lot of different wines. And I drank some of his single vineyard stuff a few years ago. They're a little tough when they're young, but you can more than easily recognize the ambition and the greatness. Should you have the patience to wait, should you find them at auction, you should pick them up and try them for sure. He's kind of crazy looking, but I don't think he's all that crazy making. The wines are fairly reasonably made. They don't feel like over the top in any way. This certainly isn't. It's fairly light and yet full of flavor. I'm not crazy about the finish just from that little alcoholic perspective. It's called the Saint-Jacques. I think there's lots of this wine about. If you see it, why not? Good picnic wine. All right, that's about all I had for this time. I really appreciate you dropping by and hanging out, and I hope to see you again very, very soon. Until that day, stay thirsty.